Suge Knight, if you know the polarizing figure, sitting here with a gun in his lap, and there's 4 other guys, and they're all like really menacing. And 50 Cent sees them, starts laughing, and starts running full speed. He runs to his trailer, gets a Uzi, and runs out and chases him.
This is why I always respected Eminem, 50, and that was with us. So Suge came, he had some Mexican. Now we from New York. You ain't never seen a with a tattoo on his forehead. He just lights the cigar, and it's the about Suge. He light the cigar, and he trying to see what you gonna do. This is when I knew Eminem was real. He's like, I don't give a man. This is when I knew, I'm like, damn, Eminem is a real.
Did you ever find out who did it?
Yeah, I knew who did it shortly after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are now where?
Oh, the guy who actually shot me is dead.
We all know how 50 Cent stood his ground against some of the most feared kingpins and killers and somehow came out on top.
50 up there. Preem, dude, you know the old school. You know what 50 did? Yeah, my.
Do it back, yeah.
Yeah, my. Oh, you know what the block did?
Yeah, that's what
So when you hear stories about 50 Cent actually chasing off Suge Knight with a gun and making him back down, don't doubt it for a second. Let's find out what happened. 50 Cent versus Suge Knight. So everybody's heard the story about how Suge Knight rolled up with his crew to the set of 50 Cent's In Da Club video shoot, trying to flex and intimidate.
This is why I always respected Eminem, 50, and that was with us. So Suge came, he had some Mexican. Now we from New York. You ain't never seen a with a tattoo on his forehead. He just lights the cigar, and it's the about Suge. He light the cigar, and he trying to see what you gonna do. This is when I knew Eminem was real. He's like, I don't give a man. This is when I knew, I'm like, damn, Eminem is a real.
That's the version that's floated around for years, but what a lot of folks don't know is that there's another side to that story, one that came straight from none other than Russell Simmons. And this one is even crazier. Russell was talking about it during a yoga podcast. Russell started reflecting on how 50 had this wild, no-fear attitude, especially after surviving getting shot 9 times. According to him, 50 would walk around with this little smirk, always giggling like nothing in the world could faze him. Then Russell dropped a gem, a part of that Suge Knight encounter that most people never heard. He painted the scene. Suge Knight sitting there, mean mugging, gun on his lap, surrounded by dudes who looked just as dangerous. The energy was heavy, but when 50 spotted them, instead of panicking, the man started laughing. Then according to Russell, 50 ran to his trailer, grabbed an Uzi, and came back out ready for war. The story goes that 50 actually chased Suge and his crew off the set, sent them running to their cars.
Suge Knight, if you know the polarizing figure, sitting here with a gun in his lap, and there's 4 other guys, and they're all like really menacing. And 50 Cent sees them, starts laughing, and starts running full speed. He runs to his trailer, gets a Uzi, and runs out and chases him.
Now some fans hear that and call cap. They argue that Suge Knight, being who he was at the time, the boogeyman of hip-hop, wasn't the type to run just like that. And they've got a point. Suge had a rep for being fearless, even reckless. But at the same time, a lot of folks are saying otherwise, because 50 wasn't no punk either. This dude had already stared death in the face and walked away. And there's more proof that 50 didn't back down from Suge. Remember the 2004 Vibe Awards? That was another moment where it looked like Suge and G-Unit might collide. That's the night a dude tried to sucker punch Dr. Dre, and the whole place exploded into chaos. Word on the street was Suge had something to do with that setup, and Tony Ayo later said that even before things popped off, the G-Unit camp had already clocked Suge and Irv Gotti lurking around their trailer. That was all 50 needed to see.
I wouldn't say we were scared, but it was the Vibe Awards when we seen Suge Knight and Irv Gotti, and they walked past the trailer.
According to Yayo, 50 wasn't about to play defense. He sent his people out to cop a bunch of knives just in case things went sideways.
50 just look at James Cruz, so he just taps James Cruz and say, yo, go buy 20 knives. Yeah, just go to the hardware store. It was about 20 to 15 of us, something like that. Suge Knight got like some crazy looking Compton-looking dudes with him, you know what I'm saying? So it just, you felt the energy.
The bottom line is, Suge Knight's name alone struck fear into a lot of people, but 50 Cent wasn't one of them. Whether or not he actually chased Suge off set with an Uzi, one thing's for sure, 50 always stood his ground. He's tangled with folks just as dangerous, maybe even more so.
Like you felt something was gonna go down, and that's when one of the dudes pops on Dre falls, and it just got crazy. Knobs started coming from everywhere, and that's when, one of the dudes got stabbed.
Jimmy Henchman. Starting off with Jimmy Henchman, their feud led to shootings, violent assaults, and the murder of one of 50's close associates. This war with 50 Cent ultimately resulted in Jimmy receiving a second life sentence. By the early 2000s, Jimmy Henchman was making serious moves in the music industry, managing big names like The Game. At the time, The Game was one of the hottest rappers out, and he had just signed with Dr. Dre, who then connected him with 50 Cent. On paper, this looked like the ultimate power move. 50 was on top of the world with G-Unit, and Dre's involvement gave The Game instant credibility. For a moment, it seemed like these two would dominate the rap game together. But things didn't stay smooth for long. According to Henchman, 50 started feeling some type of way about The Game's solo success. Game wasn't just another member of G-Unit, he was a rising star in his own right, and that supposedly didn't sit well with 50. The tension seemingly blew up when Game started rubbing shoulders with some of 50's ops. That was enough for 50 to kick him out of G-Unit, sparking one of hip-hop's most infamous feuds. Most fans know about the legendary beef between 50 Cent and The Game, including the time it escalated into a shootout in New York. But what many people don't realize is that there was another, even darker layer to the story. A personal war that would eventually drag Henchman and his family into the mix. In 2007, things took a shocking turn when 50's right-hand man, Tony Yayo, and another G-Unit affiliate, Lodi Mac, ran into Henchman's 14-year-old son, known as Lil Henchman, on the streets. According to rumors, Lil Henchman was rocking a GU-Not shirt, a direct diss to 50 Cent's crew. That didn't sit well with Yayo and Lodi, who decided to confront the kid. The confrontation turned ugly fast. The two allegedly pushed the kid up against a wall, and Yayo started slapping him. Then Lodi took it a step further by pulling out a gun and pistol whipping the teenager. It was a brutal and unnecessary move, especially since they were dealing with a minor.
If I slap your kid, you gonna go all out too. It's the streets. You know, rules got violated, and it is what it is.
Both Yayo and Lodi were arrested for the assault. While Yayo's charges were eventually dropped, Lodi pleaded guilty to aggravated assault and was sentenced to a few years in prison. The assault on Lil Henchman didn't go unanswered. Before Yayo even went to court, someone shot up his mother's house. Most people in the streets believe this was Henchman's way of sending a message. While no one was hurt in the shooting, it was a clear escalation in the feud, and it marked the point where things went from petty beef to something far more dangerous.
Your mom's house got shot up afterwards. Was your mom and your sister in the house?
Nah, my mom's wasn't there, my sister was there.
Your sister.
Meanwhile, the war between G-Unit and Henchman's camp continued to heat up. That same year, Henchman allegedly made an attempt on 50 Cent's life. 50 was on the set of his music video for I'll Still Kill, a collab with Akon, when Henchman's crew rolled up. Armed with silenced guns, they were reportedly ready to start shooting. But before they could even get out of the car, one of the guns accidentally went off. The noise spooked them, and they ended up leaving the scene.
It was the filming of the 50 Cent and Akon I'll Still Kill video.
And Henchman and them were supposed to come through, and I guess they gun jammed, but we had guard on that side, and they backed out on the hit, but we had straps too.
If that gun hadn't gone off, the situation could have turned into a bloodbath. Everyone in 50's camp was armed, so a shootout seemed inevitable. Fortunately, the mishap prevented any loss of life that day, but it showed just how far Henchman was willing to go in this escalating war. But this was just the beginning of the chaos Jimmy Henchman unleashed on Tony Yayo and 50 Cent. Jimmy was driving down Manhattan's West Side Highway and decided to take his hand off the wheel to grab his gun. As he was passing by 50 Cent's building, he was ready to fire, but he had to stop when he noticed some cops tailing him. That failed attempt didn't deter him, though. Jimmy got even more creative and sinister. He actually planned to blow up 50 Cent's bulletproof van. Knowing the cars were bulletproof, he figured an explosion might be the only way to get to 50. Jimmy's final attempt on Yayo's life was when he saw Tony Yayo's Bentley parked and decided to spray it with bullets. But as luck would have it, Yayo was sitting inside his bulletproof van parked just behind the Bentley, so he escaped unharmed.
Then, you know, as we leaving, I left Apollo. I'm around the corner, my Bentley got shot up, but luckily I was in my bulletproof truck behind the Bentley. So we all on our phones not paying attention, and some dude with a hoodie came by and squeezed probably 4 or 5 bullets.
There were even rumors that Henchman had something to do with 50's house being burned down, though no concrete evidence ever surfaced to prove it. Still, the tension was at an all-time high and both sides were clearly out for blood. Things reached a boiling point in 2009, shortly after Lodi Mac was released from prison. Just 2 weeks after getting out, Lodi was gunned down in the middle of the street in the Bronx. The murder sent shockwaves through the streets, and all eyes immediately turned to Henchman. The murder was meticulously planned by Henchman and his associates. They got information about Lodi Mac's release and movements. When they initially tried to identify him, they missed him, but they persisted. Eventually, they found out who Lodi Mac's lawyer was and called the lawyer, pretending to be a friend of a close associate, Biggie. They told the lawyer that Biggie had asked them to look after Lodi Mac now that he was out of prison. Lodi Mac, grateful for the supposed help and thinking a friend was looking out for him, agreed to meet up with him. Tragically, this led to his demise. It didn't take a detective to put two and two together. Lodi had assaulted Henchman's son, and now he was dead. For years, the murder went unsolved, though everyone seemed to know who was behind it. While investigators were busy piecing together the murder of Lodi Mac, Jimmy Henchman found himself facing another set of serious charges that would eventually seal his fate. In 2010, Henchman was hit with charges of money laundering and witness tampering. Prosecutors alleged that Henchman wasn't just dabbling in the drug game, he was running one of the largest operations in the country, pulling in over $11 million a year. His crew operated on a coast-to-coast level. They'd ship from Los Angeles to New York, where it would hit the streets, and then cash profits would make their way back to LA. But Henchman wasn't about to take unnecessary risks by using personal vehicles or obvious methods. Instead, his crew got creative. They would pack the drugs in boxes, cover them with mustard to throw off drug-sniffing dogs, and ship them through FedEx and UPS. It was a bold and efficient system, but it didn't last forever. When the feds finally caught up with Henchman, they made sure he paid the price. He was sentenced to life in prison, with a judge describing his crimes as astonishing in their breadth, duration, and intensity. But Henchman's legal troubles didn't stop there. While serving his time for the drug charges, Henchman was officially charged in 2012 for orchestrating the murder of Lodi Mac. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Several of his own shooters flipped on him, providing detailed testimonies, and there were more than 35 witnesses lined up to testify. By 2014, Henchman was found guilty and received yet another life sentence. Kenneth Supreme McGriff. Then there's Supreme. Let's go back to the early 1980s. That's when Supreme founded a gang named after himself, the Supreme Team, based in the Jamaica section of Queens, New York. Under his leadership, the gang grew to have hundreds of members and controlled the crack trade in the Baisley Park houses where McGriff grew up. The gang was pulling in about $200,000 a day, but in 1987, McGriff was sentenced to 12 years in prison. He got out on parole in 1994, but by the end of that year, he was back behind bars. It wasn't until 1997 that he managed to get his convictions cleared and started a new chapter in his life. He got involved with Ja Rule and the folks at Murder Inc., where he became one of the main players, offering protection to the label's artists. During this time, Preem and 50 had a decent relationship, but 50's career was floundering. He wasn't a star yet and was far from being a famous rapper like Ja Rule. Things were tough for him, so he started dissing the entire industry in his song How to Rob, just to get some attention and make a little money off his album, 50 Cent vs. Ja Rule. Then came the infamous beef with Ja Rule. According to 50, his friend Troy had robbed Ja. When Ja and 50 later met at a club, 50 wanted to clear the air, but Ja thought 50 was involved in the robbery. Ja later confirmed the robbery happened but denied ever seeing 50 with a guy who robbed him.
But it had nothing to do with him. Like, I didn't even know you know this dude.
Supreme stepped in and asked 50 to stop harassing Ja, and since Preem was someone 50 looked up to, he agreed. But he kept dissing Ja in his song Your Life's on the Line, even though he cut out some lines mocking Ja as a studio gangster who needed Preem's help to get his chain back, out of respect for Preem. In 1999, a tragic event shook both Preem and 50. Their mutual friend Black Just was killed. The story goes that rapper E Moneybags wanted to buy a car from Preem and had paid a deposit. When Moneybags wanted his money back, Preem laughed it off, telling him to forget about it. One day, E Moneybags shot at Preem while he was in a car with Black Just. Just got hit twice, including in the thigh. Instead of going straight to the hospital, which was nearby, Preem went to the hood and asked someone else to take Just to the hospital. This delay cost Just his life, making E Moneybags some serious enemies.
Just like that. He said that wasn't for Just. I just looked at him, man, and I say, E, that is Just. He's dead.
Now, the beef with Ja Rule didn't really cool down, and Preem was always in Ja's corner trying to talk 50 Cent into chilling out and stopping the harassment. But 50 wasn't too thrilled that Preem kept siding with Ja. Plus, Preem didn't see 50 as a potential superstar anyway. Why bother changing things up when you're making good money from an established star like Ja Rule? Then things really blew up when Ja and 50 performed at the same club and ended up in a brawl. 50 walked away with Ja Rule's chain, which he even flaunted in the music video for Life's on the Line. Naturally, Ja ran to Preem again to get his chain back. 50 versus Supreme. At this point, Preem was getting fed up with 50 because he was messing with a superstar's image, and this was the second time he had to step in to fix things for Ja. 50 was determined to bring down Murder Inc., and his relationship with Preem kept getting worse. In an interview with XXL, 50 shared a story about hearing that Ja was filming in the Coliseum area. He decided to pay him a visit, packing a pistol and riding a motorbike over there. He ran into Preem, who told him, "Hey, come here, don't even do it, I see you." Preem pulled him aside and 50 was like, "Yo, what's up with this dude?" Preem just told him to leave Ja alone, saying, Nah, I told you, leave them alone, man. You know they ain't gonna do nothing." Tony Yayo also shared a story about one of the encounters between Preem and 50 when their relationship was falling apart, where 50 showed Preem that he wasn't scared of him.
Preem came to the block, 50 up there. Preem, dude, you know the old school. You know what 50 did? Yeah, my.
Do it back, yeah.
Yeah, my. Oh, you know what the block did?
Yeah, that's what
To make things even more intense, 50 started hanging out with E Moneybags, Big Nose Troy, all of whom had beef with Preem. Things hit a boiling point when 50 released the track Ghetto Quran, which leaked and got into Preem's hands. In the song, 50 mentioned Preem and that didn't sit well with him at all. 50 claimed that other artists had talked about Supreme in his shady past, and Supreme was fine with it, even happy that rappers were mentioning his gang in their songs. But when 50 brought him up, Preem got mad. Other gangsters from New York understood that 50's song was just a tribute, but Preem didn't see it that way. Around this time, someone almost killed Supreme at a gas station, and Supreme thought 50 Cent was behind it. So he decided to take out his enemies, with 50 being the first on the list. Preem hired Daryl Baum, aka Hamo, who used to be Mike Tyson's bodyguard, to kill 50 Cent for a hefty sum. 50 gets shot. On May 24, 2000, 50 left his grandmother's house with his son inside and his grandmother in the front yard. As he got into the backseat of his car, another car pulled up and an assailant walked up to the window, firing 9 shots from a 9mm pistol. 50 was hit in the hand, arm, hip, both legs, chest, and left cheek. A few inches higher and he wouldn't have made it. Miraculously, after 3 weeks in the hospital and multiple surgeries, 50 pulled through. His survival became one of the most legendary stories in rap folklore. 3 years later, the track Many Men would reveal Hamo as the shooter, but by then, Hamo was long dead.
Mike, was that your shortest fight ever? I bear witness there's only one God, and Muhammad, blessings and peace be upon him, is his prophet. I dedicate this fight to my brother, Darabam, who died.
Fast forward, the police gathered enough evidence to arrest McGriff in 2002 on pending murder charges. Also in 2003, Irv Gotti came under investigation, putting his record label, Murder Inc., in serious jeopardy. Gotti was charged with laundering money for McGriff in 2005, but the jury declared him innocent of all charges. Despite Gotti's legal victory, McGriff wasn't so lucky. He was convicted of drug racketeering, and murder in New York federal court. Using testimony from a hitman, text messages, and video evidence, prosecutors proved that McGriff hired killers for $50,000. With all his and Gotti's assets seized, McGriff couldn't afford a lawyer and was given a court-appointed attorney. On April 9, 2007, McGriff was sentenced to life in prison.